Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. Director Kraninger, thank you for your testimony and your leadership. You are standing up for consumers at the CFPB. And under your leadership, the CFPB is making great strides to increase transparency and accountability, enforce the rule of law, and end regulation by arbitrary enforcement. For far too long, the CFPB had lacked any meaningful oversight or accountability that other federal financial agencies have. And my colleagues and I are encouraged by your efforts to question the constitutionality of your position and the structure of the CFPB in a recent letter to the Justice Department. And I'd like to ask that that be entered into the record.
Without objection, such is the order.
Director Kraninger, the Bureau is run by a single director who cannot be removed at will by the President. How does this structure benefit American consumers in Missouri's 2nd Congressional District?
Congresswoman, I appreciate where you're coming from on this question, and I took the position certainly that the Supreme Court needs to review this, and that in my view, that it is unconstitutional in terms of the removal provision specifically, and the remedy was laid out in the Justice Department's filing. But I will say the rest I will certainly leave as a question for the Supreme Court and Congress to consider in terms of what the structure is that would be most appropriate. And I recognize it is a controversy that needs to be discussed, and there are two sides to this position.
In your opinion, how can the CFPB better protect consumers? Is more regulation the answer?
It is really the most effective use of all of our tools, and I take your point. I do believe that we really need to look closely at our regulatory actions to ensure that the benefits do outweigh the costs, because the costs are not just costs imposed on regulated entities. Those costs do actually make their way to consumers, both in access to credit as well as the cost of the credit that they are seeking. And so that is something that we absolutely have to take into account in our actions. And no, costs without benefit do not help consumers.
So cost-benefit analyses are a good thing for the CFPB and for other regulatory agencies to undertake, correct?
Absolutely.
That protects the consumer. How do transparency and accountability at the Bureau benefit consumers as well as businesses?
I fundamentally believe that the government owes the people a clear articulation of what the rules are, the debate and discussion that needs to be out in the open, frankly, about what different positions are, and it's something that I have taken to heart. I have tried to make sure that we are engaged in that very robust discussion and transparency, including in issuing requests for information, having our symposium series where we're bringing in experts to debate things and webcasting that, and issuing advance notice of proposed rulemaking, again, to continue to have a dialogue ongoing as the Bureau shapes its proposals before issuing regulations.
And I commend you for those very public and transparent actions that you're taking. The steps under your tenure to greatly improve transparency and accountability are absolutely commendable. What else can be done within the Bureau's existing authorities? Is congressional action needed to strengthen that transparency?
With respect to congressional action and transparency, certainly if I find any particular matters, I will ask. I do believe in terms of protecting consumers, there is one request that I have sought from Congress, and that is specific authority to be able to supervise for Military Lending Act compliance. But beyond that, that is the only legislative ask at this time.
Is congressional action necessary to ensure the CFPB is accountable? What is the CFPB doing in absence of action to ensure it remains accountable for its actions?
Congressman, we're continuing to carry out, to the best of our ability, the mission that we have been given by Congress. I have nearly 1,500 employees who carry that work out every day, and I'm very proud to
And
represent.
who believe in the Constitution and in following it.
Absolutely.
My time has expired. I yield back.